What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with DFS, bringing you a brand new video. Today's video, I'm doing Week 11's Monday Night Showdown between the 49ers and Arizona Cardinals. If you haven't been here before, if you're new to the channel, basically what I do is compare and contrast both the DraftKings and Fanduel Showdown prices and try to find opportunities. I try to stay on DraftKings the majority of the time just because that's where the popular site is. It's a little more popular, but I do go over prices just because sometimes FanDuel has better pricing and has some better opportunities, in my opinion, on Showdowns and DraftKings. Sometimes DraftKings makes it very difficult with their high pricing. FanDuel, you sometimes get some really good opportunities. So as far as the pricing on DraftKings, we get 3 players above 10K. Jimmy Garoppolo, Colt McCoy, just under 10. It looks like Kyler Murray's not playing tonight from everything that's reported. DeAndre Hopkins just got announced that he is good to go tonight. So on FanDuel, you get 3 players above 15K, which is kind of crazy. McCaffrey being 16.5, Kyler, D-Hop, Garoppolo. So as far as where the players are priced, it's almost similar. So both sites are the same of McCaffrey, Murray, Hopkins, Garoppolo, McCoy, so you can see here. And then you get on FanDuel, and this is what I talk about as far as like pricing difference. FanDuel has Debo, Ayuk, Connor, Moore. On DraftKings, you get Connor, Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, Moore. So DraftKings has Kittle above Rondale Moore. FanDuel has George Kittle below Trace McSorley. And right above the defenses. And then you get a discount on Rondale Moore on DraftKings as well. And then you get Elijah Mitchell as that mid-tier pricing, along with the 49ers defense, which is 5K, which is up there in pricing for a defense. AJ Green, Juwan Jennings. Then you get the kickers and the other defense. And FanDuel, you get the defenses, Robbie Goldman, Prater, Elijah Mitchell. So almost the same thing, AJ Green here. Ingram is priced higher on FanDuel, like what would be higher on FanDuel than DraftKings. $2,600 on DraftKings. On FanDuel, he's 75. Probably if you got him at 7 or 65, you'd start to get, I'd say, to the same in my opinion. And then we look at like the huge value. So already I mentioned Ingram as a value for me tonight at 2,600. And its value, I don't like the matchup at all. Obviously, if you looked and see what San Fran has done against running backs, it has not been pretty. And you can look at Ingram's usage so far this season. And, you know, James Conner is that guy. But with Eno Benjamin just getting randomly waived, I'm interested to see why. I haven't really looked too much in depth about it, but that is a crazy situation there. So Ingram on DraftKings is 2,600, so that's where you get the value at. 7,500 is still value on FanDuel. I just like him a little cheaper for tonight in order for me to really like him. And then on DraftKings, some of the other names that I find as values, one of the biggest names is Trey McBride at 1,000. He's going to be the tight end for the Cardinals tonight. I imagine he gets a majority of the snaps. Very promising if anyone is into dynasty football or you're just really into college football and you know prospects. You know Trey McBride is going to be the next guy in Arizona once Zach Ertz is done. I don't know how long or anything like that, but Trey McBride, from what everyone says, is supposed to be that next guy up. Supposed to be a lot more athletic than Zach Ertz, and it's rightfully so. Zach Ertz is, you know what you get out of Zach Ertz. He's pretty much a powerhouse tight end. He's very reliable and really good in clutch situations. So Trey McBride has big shoes to fill for the rest of the season, I would imagine. And $1,000 tonight, that's a really good value piece for me. Now, granted, San Fran has played tight ends very well, one of the best teams against tight ends, but he's $1,000. That's a huge value. You don't need 10 plus points. If you can get 9 points, 9 points at 1,000 is 9 times value. That's crazy. So to put it into perspective, if he were just to get 8, let's say 8 points, 8 times value, for Jimmy Garoppolo to get that 8 times value, he's got to put up 80 fantasy points tonight. That's where value comes in. Like, you don't need him to get you 15 points. If he does, by all means, you're probably having a very good night. But if he gets you 7, 8 points, you're looking at a really good spot. It allows you to pay up for all these guys. You could pay up for almost all these guys by getting somebody like Trey McBride in your lineup. On Fanduel, he's 7,000, so he's still a very good value piece. Now we look at another value name. There's not a whole lot of volume or value that I could see tonight with potential volume. Kyle Juszczyk, $600. If you're playing a lot of lines, you're definitely going to want Kyle Juszczyk in. And here's why. He's $600. So Trey McBride is $1,000. Kyle Juszczyk, $600. Look at what he's put up this year. For a guy that's $600, he's put up 3 or more fantasy points in all but 2 games this year. That's it. He's been banged up. He's just returning. Last game was against the Chargers, and he gets 0. But in the receiving game, 6.4, 7.3, 4.7, 5.4. Now, granted, it might be different since Christian McCaffrey's on the team now, and Elijah Mitchell is healthy, so that volume might not be there. But if you're playing quite a bit of lines, you're going to want exposure to Kyle Juszczyk. He's one of those guys, and especially against a team like Arizona, who does not play good against running backs, for a guy to come in and potentially steal a touchdown, get a couple receptions, stuff like that, he's a guy that I look at. And on FanDuel, he is the minimum at 5K. So definitely you have potential to get someone like him in there. That is it for value. And now let's talk about guys that I like and based off their pricing. So Christian McCaffrey at 11.4. I do like Christian McCaffrey a lot in this slate. You see last week against the Chargers, who is pretty bad against the run. 14 for 38, 4 receptions. Well, he gets that touchdown. 4 receptions, 39 yards. Gets 6 targets, so quite a bit of volume. But then we go and look at Elijah Mitchell. In his first game back, he had 18 carries. 18 for Elijah Mitchell just returning. They want Elijah Mitchell as their running back. They have a plan. It's not like they're disregarding Christian McCaffrey in any way because you traded a few draft picks for him. His contract is going to be there in cost. So they're going to use Christian McCaffrey, and I'm not in any way trying to say that Christian McCaffrey is going to lose, get out snapped to Elijah Mitchell or anything like that, because Christian McCaffrey is a game changer. He's what defenses have to account for when you're planning out that week, when you're doing your scouting and all that. Christian McCaffrey is that guy. Not saying Elijah Mitchell isn't either, but Christian McCaffrey is just a dual threat running back. The crazy thing is, though, for me, is you have almost 2 of those. Deebo Samuel is not a running back. He's a wide receiver. But he gets carries. He gets carries. Now, granted, they're not using him as much. And now that Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell are there, he really doesn't have to be used that much in the run game. They're still going to utilize him because he's that good. But I don't think they need to use him that much. So Christian McCaffrey for me, if I can pay up to him, I'm going to. I'm not going to lock him in. He has touchdown potential, probably going to be the guy that gets the touchdown tonight, and I'm not denying that. But if you wanted, let's say, to get Garoppolo, get McCoy, get D-Hop, unless you're paying down for a few of these value guys, it's going to be pretty hard to get Christian McCaffrey. Now, when it comes to D-Hop, I do really like D-Hop tonight. He does have Colt McCoy's, I'd say about a 95% chance he has Colt McCoy as his quarterback. It's all but confirmed now. You look at last week and against the Rams, against Jalen Ramsey, 14 targets, 10 for 98. Has a really good game. I like DeAndre Hopkins tonight. Got a good matchup. Not the greatest, but San Fran is kind of banged up in that secondary. But I don't love him. If I had to choose between D-Hop and McCaffrey tonight, I'm leaning towards McCaffrey. I would find a way to get that $1,000 and pay up to McCaffrey. Doesn't mean that DeAndre Hopkins is a bad play. Just being questionable, going against a very good defense, a big divisional game here with Colt McCoy as the quarterback. And Colt McCoy had success last season against San Fran if you go and look at it. So, not denying that. But they're not the 8-1 Cardinals again this year. They're a struggling team. So I'm leaning towards McCaffrey over D-Hop. Now we go to the quarterbacks. Jimmy Garoppolo, very good matchup. Jimmy Garoppolo, I mean, in total, it's been very good. And you look at his last 4 games. He's locking it in pass percentage-wise. So, yardage-wise, I mean, 2 big weeks against Kansas City and Atlanta as far as yards. Obviously, 2 big losses as well. But against the division opponent of the Rams, 2 touchdowns, 21 for 25, 84% completion percentage, 235. Last week against the Chargers, got it done. No touchdowns, 67% completion percentage, 240 yards, gets you 15.9 points. In a game like this, where San Fran should dominate, like this should be a blowout. They're favored by 10. Jimmy Garoppolo should easily have 2 touchdowns, over 200 yards, and then they're just going to run the ball. Let their defense just work and just decimate that Arizona offense. Colt McCoy, although I love his attitude if you watch him on Hard Knocks, just all business. It seems like he's all business, which is perfect. That's what you want for a quarterback. But the pricing, like, I don't want to go Colt McCoy tonight. I think his boom or bust is not good for this game script, and he's just too much for me to get to. So those top 2 players, basically, since everyone is expecting Kyler out, I'm leaning towards McCaffrey. The quarterbacks, I'm leaning towards Garoppolo. Then we start to get to now some of the skill positions. Debo, Ayuk, Connor, Rondale Moore, George Kittle. You know, this is where these guys are. So, James Conner, I do not want to play. I don't. You look at last week against the Rams. He has a good game. He has 2 touchdowns, though. 21 for 69, so 3.3 gets you 3 receptions, 17 yards. So if you take away the 2 touchdowns, which is, I believe, 6 points a touchdown, you're looking at 11 points coming out of James Conner. That's not very good, especially for a guy that's 8,600. That's not that good. So you go to someone like Deebo Samuel, and you look at Deebo's numbers. Deebo hasn't been putting up great numbers either. And his targets aren't there. I mean, 6, 7, 10, 9, 7. But his receptions, 2, 5, 7, 2. And his yardage has been very poor. But some of the matchups he's had hasn't been the most favorable. Tonight, it's very favorable for someone like Deebo Samuel. He's had success against Arizona in the past. And he's a guy that I'm putting money on an anytime touchdown tonight. I expect Deebo to find the end zone once, if not twice. So Deebo Samuel is my guy that I love in this like mid to high tier pricing. I just don't want to touch James Conner on either site. I'd rather go Deebo. Ayuk's up here. I like Ayuk. I just don't think I'm getting to him tonight. But I think he's worth playing, especially if you're playing quite a few lines of having exposure to Brandon Ayuk. All San Fran has a good matchup tonight against Arizona. They're banged up in the secondary as well. So Ayuk is playable. I just don't know if I'm getting to him, especially on Fanduel. He's priced a little more highly than I'd like. And now we get to, hopefully, my favorite play, man. My favorite play for tight ends. If you remember last year, tight ends had a great game every primetime. It seems like, unless you're Travis Kelce, you're not having a great game at tight end. Travis Kelce is a monster. I regret not playing him last night. It's foolish on me. But George Kittle, a really good game script for him. Arizona is the worst defense against tight ends. And we've seen George Kittle in the past against Arizona play very well. He is my guy that I want to have in a majority of my lineups tonight. Captain him, all that stuff. George Kittle, 7,000 on DraftKings. On FanDuel, you get him for 10, which is pretty good price in my opinion. Then Rondale Moore. I like Rondale Moore tonight. His price is right there, 6,600. It's good mid-tier price, especially getting off of DeAndre Hopkins. You look at Rondale Moore. I'm just looking at from the FanDuel. 23 targets in his last 2 games. So he's right there behind DeAndre Hopkins, and you're paying quite a bit discount for him. Now, last week, DeAndre Hopkins gets 19.8. You look at Rondale Moore, 13.9. And you're talking the price difference just going off of this week would be 4,500. So it allows you to do a lot more for that price point. So Rondell Moore is definitely a guy I want to get to. Elijah Mitchell is the mid-tier guy that I want to play as well. I'm not interested in AJ Green, Juwan Jennings. The 49ers defense, yes, I like to get to. But Elijah Mitchell, I really want to get to. On DraftKings is 5,800. And on Fanduel, 8,500. So mid-tier guy on both sides and a guy I want to play tonight. The 49ers defense on both sides I want to get to if I can. Arizona held on. They held up the Rams' front edge, and it was crazy to see, especially with how banged up they are. San Fran without Armstead tonight is going to be interesting, but overall their depth and the way that they pressure quarterbacks and stuff like that, I really like their defense. And then I mentioned the value plays. That's it. I don't really care for someone like a Greg Dortch, a Robbie Anderson tonight. I mean, you look at Robbie Anderson's numbers since getting traded, and he complained about being in Carolina and not getting anything. Well, guess what? They're losing games, and he's not getting anything. He's had, what, 6 targets since getting traded? 7? That's crazy. So, don't have any interest in playing him, and then went over the value. So, what I'm going to do now is pretty much chug and play and see what I can get. So, I mentioned I like Trey McBride. He's a good value piece for me tonight. I also like George Kittle. I like Rondell Moore. And see, this is where it opens up stuff. Captain, I want to captain Debo. It allows me to do this. Allows me to get Garoppolo, and then I have Christian McCaffrey. And I can also move around. So let's say no one's really in there that I'm interested in. So we go back to Trey McBride. We'll look at someone like Rondell Moore. Go 87. We could pay up to pretty much anyone besides D-Hop. We can even pay down to Elijah Mitchell, stuff like that. So, I didn't want Ayuk in there. Rondell Moore, sorry. That's pretty much an example on DraftKings. Now let's go to FanDuel. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put Debo in as my MVP. Then we're going to go to Flex. We're going to see what we could do price-wise. So that leaves us with 12. I want George Kittle in there. 12-6. I want Garoppolo in there. 11-7. Let's see if I put Rondell Moore. It leaves me with 13. I can't pay up for McCaffrey. So I got my San Fran stack, so I need an Arizona player. So if I get Trey McBride, it allows me to pay up for McCaffrey on the dot. That would be an example. I don't really love that of only having one Arizona player tonight, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have one Arizona player without the San Fran defense on the other side. That's just saying that you expect all these guys to outscore San Fran's defense, and then Trey McBride hold his own. So that's just an example for you guys. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. That means a lot to me. If you guys are interested in joining us, our Discord link will be down in the description below. And yeah, guys, I will see you in the next one.